talk for a minute about erosion. Our soils need to be covered year-round. They have a terminology they've adopted up north. It's not called no-till, it's called never-till. Never-till, and I'd never heard that before, but that kind of caught me when I heard that. I do understand that we're going to have times that we have a wet fall, we have a 60 bushel bean crop out there, we've got to get it out of the field, we're going to cut some ruts in the field. I do understand that. And you know, in a circumstance, in a situation like that, you're just going to do what you got to do to get that crop out of the field. I noticed something at my house in my backyard. As I'm experiencing a lot of erosion in my backyard, I have a swing set, Ted, that was up under a tree limb, and my swing finally got in bad shape and I had to take it down and replace it. But what I noticed is this swing has been hanging under a particular tree limb for 15 years. When I took that swing down, the soil was about this much higher up under the swing than it was right beside it and all around it. What's happening is where there's nothing to cover the ground, the raindrops that fall on every rain event, and we've had some huge rain events the last few years, when it impacts that soil, it's breaking it up and it's running off. But just that swing set, and this is a real crude example to give on a farm demonstration, but just that swing set being there to stop that raindrop from impacting the ground has made that much difference. The perfect recipe for erosion is this. The most perfect recipe for erosion is to take a disc and go into a field and to just disc a field 2 or 3 times and have a loose topsoil and have a hard pan 4 to 6 inches up under it, or 6 to 8 inches up under it. Because what you've done there, when you have a hard pan under the bottom and you have loose soil on top, you've created a situation and a circumstance to where all the rain from some of these 3 and 4 inch rain events, it cannot go down in the soil at all. It goes down to a depth of 4 to 6 inches and it's running off. So that is a perfect recipe for soil erosion right there. Have you been up and down the roads here and seen some of these ditches that are silted in? And I know some of the places up and down the roads here, I've seen these big water furrows that run into the road ditches, and you'll see, you get down the road 100 yards to the left or the right, and you'll have a road ditch that's this deep, and you get to where the water furrow is, and the road ditch is almost level with the blacktop there, and that's your very finest particles and sediment, and that's where most of your nutrients is in those fines. Let's talk just a second about water infiltration. We've got to break through the hard pan. All of our soils have hard pans. Let me just say this. We got to break the hard pan. I realize that you got a red tractor or a green tractor that's got between 360 and 400 horsepower. I realize that. I do realize that. The problem is you got about 4,000 to 5,000 acres that needs to be deep broken, and diesel is going to probably be $3.75 a gallon before this year's over with. So even though you got deep pockets, you got a big tractor, you got big acreage, and you got big fuel prices. I'm telling you, there's a better way of doing things than we've been doing it. We're going to look at some soil pits down here after a while that we got dug right before dinner time. Bob oaks, and you're going to see that down here, have many, many roots that go from 2 to 3 feet deep. Some roots going up to 5 feet deep, 4 to 5 feet deep. Your Elbon rye is probably a little bit more aggressive than what your Bob oaks would be. I've been to a soil health field day up at Cotton Plant, Arkansas. They had soil pit dug up there with a backhoe digger that was probably 7 foot deep. I can't remember the exact covers. I think they had some Elbon rye and some radish up there. They dug the soil pit, got down in the bottom of it. It's 6 foot deep and combed the dirt away. There was cover crop roots down to 6 feet deep in that soil pit. I'm telling y'all, there's a better way of doing things, and the closer we can get back to mimicking nature, the closer we can get back to the way Mother Nature created it, the better off we are. You know, sometimes the proof is in the pudding. I started doing cover crops, and I'm gonna tell you this, I tried just strictly no-till to begin with hardly no success. My first several experiences just with no-till, when I would go in there with a planter with 400 or 500 pounds of downforce, the entire planter with a full seed hopper would be riding up out of the ground on the disc openers. It was only when I started putting a living root in the soil in the fall that the two systems work good together. You need the no-till with the cover crops. And I'm going to say this about cover crops. There's hundreds of seeds out there. anything is better than nothing. I mean, any seed out there is better than nothing. I mean, just to have nothing is a bad thing. The proof is in the pudding. One particular farm, and this is a no-till farm. I mean, the only thing this farm has had in it from the time I laid it out, it was rode up 7, 8 years ago. We run a no-till cultivator about every other year. And what a no-till cultivator does is I go in there, and the only reason running it is to clean the middle out for further irrigation. The no-till cultivator, basically this is what it's doing. We're cutting a trench about like this. And me being twin row, you know, used to with a set of normal hippers, you're trying to throw up a tall row and you're trying to knock it back down, and you wind up with a row top that is like this. And I'm still 40-inch rows because I'm twin row. And we have 8-inch twins on 40, so I have 8-inch rows with a 32-inch middle. But I said, you know, I don't need a 20-inch row with a 20-inch middle. I need a middle that's like this, just enough to run water down. I need an 8-inch middle with a 32-inch row top. But what really caught my attention was on the same field, the same irrigation pump, electric pump, so they're pumping the same gallons per minute, year after year, the same exact layout of irrigation pipe. 7, 8 years ago was I could turn water on at say 6 o'clock in the evening to irrigate. It would get out at about 6 o'clock the next morning, so it was taking about 12 hours for water to run out the ends. What I started noticing about 3 years ago is the exact same setup is now taking water 36 to 40 hours to run out the middles. And that was a huge thing when I saw that. You know, I cannot control what I'm going to get at the elevator this fall. I have no control over that whatsoever. We're all kind of just riding the wave, so to speak. But what I can do is I can control my input cost. I can have a great influence on that. This shop yard right here, this has been a farm shop yard since before I was born. This has been here for 60 years. I know back in the cotton days, the conventional till cotton days, this shop yard right here was lined with equipment. We had, I think if I can remember right, we had a set of Dickey cultivators, we had a set of Taylor Ways, we had 2 sets of Livingston 8-row folding cultivators, we had a set of 2 lay-by rigs. There was 4 tractors here on a 1,000-acre farm at the time. And I look at the amount of equipment we had then versus the amount of equipment that we have now. Now, all I have to have now is 2 tractors. There's no cultivators here. There's 1 spray rig, 1 planter, and 1 full-time person, which is basically me. I have a little bit of part-time help. And used to, on the same amount of acres, it took about 3 full-time people. So I mean, there is a drastic change in the amount of manpower, the amount of fuel, the amount of equipment needed in conventional till versus no-till. I have rows on the farm right now that are 15 years old. People say, well, you need to break up your rows every 4 or 5 years and rebuild them. Why? Why do you need to do that? I don't understand the logic behind that, because all of my experience is I got cover crop roots in this ground continually. I have either corn or soybean roots there, and what I'm doing is I'm creating a channel below that row that's just getting better and better, and these fields are just getting better and better every year. And I mean, yields have shown that, water infiltration has shown that, the organic matter is getting better every year. What I have seen in the setup that I am now is seed to soil contact. We have excellent seed to soil contact when we plant. Our soils are very, very mellow when we plant them in the springtime. I remember years in conventional till when we used to go out there and try to throw up a row that's knee high, and you running your tractor at full power and capacity to do that, and you're coming right behind it and burning all this diesel to knock it back down flat again. And I remember years to where we were fighting moisture issues, not having enough moisture to get cotton up. I can remember us running rollers in the field, either behind the planter or in front of the planter, trying to roll the fields to pack them down to hold moisture. In 15 years of this system, I have not had an issue of not having moisture. We always have moisture to plant in. The pneumatic down pressure, the copperhead ag, and a good set of row cleaners, and pretty much you can plant through anything. And I planted through covers right here in this field. I planted through Elbon rye that was up over my head. The ultimate farm. You know what the ultimate farm is? A row crop farm, planting cover crops, grazing cattle. You guys that's got row crops and you got cattle and you're not planting cover crops, you're missing the boat big time. Because you got a field out there that's laying out there for 6 months out of the year. You can plant your cover crops. It's doing all the work in your soils, and you can turn your cattle in on it and graze them for 60, 90 days out of the year. That is the best system to have. I have 2 of those 3. I don't have any cattle, but that's something we're wanting to add in the next few years.